Okay, go live on Rockfin and let's go.
I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati.
All right. Happy Wednesday, everyone. Welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sab's podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the roundtable and Friday for the Sabby show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. What is going on, everyone? Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. I want to say hello to a few people in the chat before we get into tonight's news. Should be an interesting night. Shout out to Emily JL, said the other stream just quit. Oh no, that was a clip, Emily. Yeah, I take clips from the live streams and post them in the afternoon. So that's what that was. What's going on? Hannah G says Pelosi is back in the news. Yes, she is. I can't wait to get into that story. What's going on? Miguel says peace. Shout out to Gamer and Ganja for Life says hello. What's going on? Kenchi says hey. Hey to you too. What's going on? The Traveler says hi, y'all. Greetings, Little says howdy, Miguel and Gamer. You guys got shout outs tonight. You got shout outs. What's going on, Lawrence Johnson? Always great to see you. He's a Sabby member, says doobie doo. Yipper99 says same here, Gamer. And the ganja of the 4 of the lives with the 07. Shout out to Yipper99. What's going on, Little Rock Elevator? Says I need the theme as a ringtone. Ooh, that's a good idea. You making me think about things, Little Rock. Shout out to Jenna Till says sup. I like that. What's going on? Ashira says just coming in for a bit. I hope to see you talk about the clip I sent you. Just praying. I have talked about that on here before. But we'll see. I will be live tomorrow night, though, which I'm usually not here on Thursdays. But because I'm not here Friday, I will be here tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Shout out to Bryce says, hey, everyone in Sabby. Greetings, Laura says, hi, Sabby Misfits. Hi, Sabby. Have a great show. Thank you so much. Shout out to Notori sending the love. Greetings, King Bradicus says, glad I found your channel and I see you have a Rick and Morty picture. I love Rick and Morty. All right. Shout out. All right, guys, really quick. I want to give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate all the support. If you're interested, I have 5 categories: members, Sabby, Sabsters, Sabinators, and Ultimate. All of their names are listed here. Thank you so much. And you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, what are we talking about tonight? I want to go ahead and get into this. Should be an interesting night. All right, tonight we're discussing Joe Rogan versus Nancy Pelosi. What is that all about? Why does Nancy have her fist up in the air? She looks a little angry there, and so does Joe. I'm also talking about Matt Taibbi calls out warmongers. Uncle Sam wants you. Should you go? And last but not least, I'm also going to discuss the medical strike. So there's a couple of new labor movements that started this week. I'm going to get into those stories as well. So let's go ahead and get started with the medical strikes. Now, there's two different events going on here. Both of them involve medical facilities. The first one is a nursing home strike. Now, this is happening in Connecticut. Listen to this. Like I said, this is going to be the year where labor really, really rises up. We saw a little bit of that last year. We're going to see a lot more of that this year. All right, I'm going to make this a little bit larger for the people in the back. Here we go. Why do they have this thing up here? I hate when they have those stupid banners that stay there. Sorry about that, you guys. All right. Workers at 5 Connecticut nursing homes threaten April 22nd strike. So they are giving forewarning that they're about to shut things down. Here we go. Nearly 450 workers at 5 nursing homes in Hartford, Rocky Hill, West Hartford, Bloomfield, and Windsor. This is all in Connecticut. That's Hartford, Rocky Hill, West Hartford, Bloomfield, and Windsor will begin a strike April 22nd to resolve what they describe as unfair labor practices. Their union announced this on Tuesday. I do want to let people know, if you're not aware, in Connecticut, there's Hartford, the city, but there's also West Hartford. Those are two separate places, actually. Just wanted to point that out. Many of the caregivers, dietary, housekeeping, and laundry workers we represent have received poverty level wages, have spent weeks or days without pay, and have worked in some cases 16 hours a day for weeks on end. Now, that's coming from Jesse Martin. He's the vice president of the SEIU District 1199 New England. Now, I want to come out here for a second to address something that I just told you in this article. The fact that some of these employees haven't received pay, this is not even legal. I don't understand how they're able to get away with that. He just explained to you that people have been working 16-hour shifts back to back to back. Now, why is this a problem besides the fact that the workers are being exploited? It's also a problem because obviously if these healthcare providers are working so many hours like that and they're not getting proper rest, that is going to affect their performance. When it comes to the healthcare industry, this is not a field where you can have poor performance because that affects your patients. Now, I say this, having worked in one of these skilled nursing facilities before, it is really important that you are on your A game. It is really important that you can't even do things like, I remember when I was working there, if you were hungover, you were advised not to come in because, again, you are dealing with patients. They are trusting their care in your hands. So if you're working people 16-hour shifts, and it sounds like some of them aren't even getting paid, and I'm pretty sure they probably weren't getting the overtime either, you are not going to be in your best health to take care of those patients. So this is very problematic, very unfortunate here. And I can't believe this happens in one of the wealthiest countries in the world. So let's go back into the article. The union announced that its membership had overwhelmingly authorized a strike for April 22nd, starting at 6 a.m. at the Bloomfield Healthcare Center, Hebrew Center for Health and Rehabilitation in West Hartford, Maple View Health and Rehabilitation Center in Rocky Hill, Windsor Health and Rehabilitation Center, and Avery Heights Senior Living in Hartford. I don't know if any of you in the chat live in Connecticut. I know Lucky Burrito's from Connecticut, but if you are, some of these places may sound familiar to you. These employers have committed significant violations of federal labor law. See what I was telling you about the law? One nursing home had hired unlicensed staff and offered them CNA licensure in lieu of their first weeks of pay. This is illegal. A CNA license, let me explain what a CNA is, first of all, for those who are not aware. CNAs are certified nursing assistants. They are more prevalent in nursing home facilities. They take care of the patients just as much as the nurses do. They're the ones that sometimes will bathe the patients. They will assist the patients to the restrooms. They might feed them, and so on and so on. You cannot be a CNA without completing the course requirements and the training and a license. So once you complete the training and the license, the training, you get the license, and then you can apply for CNA jobs. You see what they're saying right here in this article. They're telling you that one of these nursing homes hired unlicensed staff. That's illegal. And offered them CNA licensure in lieu of their first weeks of pay. So they hired people that were not licensed as CNAs and offered just to give them the license. You cannot do that. I don't know who is the administrator at that nursing home, but you cannot do that. That is illegal. And forego their pay. So they told them, you're not licensed, we'll go ahead and hire you. And if you're willing to forego your pay for the first couple of weeks, we'll go ahead and give you the license. This is not legal. And yet this was happening in a medical facility where you have people who are family members of these patients and they are trusting their care in the hands of these nursing homes. This is terrible. This is absolutely terrible. The union said those nursing homes are also among the last stragglers to reach their new labor contracts. It said it has successfully negotiated multi-year agreements with about 90% of Connecticut's nursing homes. It wants, these are the demands, minimum wages of $20 for certified nursing assistants. So that goes to show you how much they were paying them. They weren't even making that. $18.50 for other workers, more affordable health insurance. How did I know health insurance will be a part of this? Because even some people that work in medical facilities are underinsured. Some people don't realize that. There are nurses and CNAs who don't have proper health insurance, even though their job is to take care of people in a health facility. That doesn't mean that they have proper health insurance. So this is just a wake-up call for some people. I knew about this because I've worked in one of these facilities. Now, they're also asking for retirement and pension contributions and what it called measures to address racial discrimination. Well. So a lot of things are going on. National Healthcare Associates, which owns the nursing homes in Rocky Hill, West Hartford, and Bloomfield, countered that it has been bargaining in good faith all along. I find that interesting. The company has agreed to increases of 15.5% to 20.5% for minimum wage employees starting next summer. Notice starting next summer. Why can't they just give it to them now? And a 4.5% raise for anyone earning more than minimum wage. We have committed to use money from the state to fund a defined contribution employer pension plan and to make improvements to the health and or make it more affordable. That's coming from Christina Fleming, and that was said in a written statement. By contrast, the union made an initial proposal on February 21st, and with one exception, has not modified its position. National Healthcare will continue negotiating and believes a strike isn't the answer. Of course. She said, but added, it is doing everything necessary to limit disruption to our residents and ensure patient care is in no way affected. But if they were worried about patient care being affected, then why did they hire people that were unlicensed to care for them? I wouldn't be surprised if they shut these places down. I wouldn't be surprised. This is terrible. Bryce says that sounds like not a lot, barely a 5% raise. Yes. Yep. Sebastian said, I'm from Connecticut. Many of our lawmakers are bought by the 1% from our state, and even the governor is a millionaire. Well, there you go. There you go. We'll go back in. At Avery Heights, Administrator Bill Thompson, by the way, the administrator at the nursing home is the person in charge of the entire facility. Just FYI for those who don't know. We will continue to negotiate in good faith in hopes of reaching a settlement that is fair and equitable to team members represented by NEHCEU. If no agreement can be reached before the April 22nd deadline, Avery Heights will continue to ensure the ongoing care, safety, and well-being of our residents. Well, you shouldn't make that guarantee, because if your employees, your nurses and your CNAs go on strike, if you don't meet their demands, how can you guarantee that you're going to take care of the safety and well-being of your residents if you don't have staff there to do so? I wouldn't have made that guarantee. Windsor Health and Rehabilitation spokeswoman Laura Alatis said in an email that her company has offered a 13% raise over the next 4 years. Note, you guys, over the next 4 years. That's important. She called the strike decision troubling. I don't know. I don't consider the strike decision to be troubling. I consider the way that they were treating these nurses and these CNAs, I consider that to be more troubling than the fact that they want to go on strike. It's only considered troubling to them because they're afraid they're going to lose workers. That's what that's about. You lose workers, you have no one to take care of the patients, the family members who are paying for their family members to stay in these facilities are going to want to pull their money. They're going to want to pull their loved ones out of those homes and take them somewhere else, which means that those businesses will lose money. That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. The union said its members have filed grievances and that at least 10 National Labor Relations Board complaints are pending, but claimed it must strike to prevent further losses to workers. It is alleged some members have been threatened and harassed for union membership, and that some of the nursing homes have refused to pay new employees for their first 2 or 3 weeks of work. What kind of tactic is this? How do you just not pay people? This is terrible. This is absolutely ridiculous. And this right here should have been on local news. I don't know if it was on all the local news, but this should have been on mainstream media. This should have been on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. This is incredibly troubling. Okay, let's pop out. Now, that is one of the medical strikes. That's just one of them. I have another one. Both of these were announced this week. This one involves Howard University. Now, I don't know if you were paying attention last year, but Howard University students were actually demanding that the university fix the facilities on campus. The students were complaining about mold. They had videos, they had pictures, there were roaches, they had rats in the facilities on campus. And now Howard University's hospital, now they are raising concerns as well. I want to shout out this super chat really quick. Thank you so much for the super sticker, Lonely Weirdo. What's going on? What's going on, Lonely? All right. Listen to this story here. Now, again, this is Howard University Hospital. The employees are on strike. Here we go. Hundreds of workers at Howard University Hospital in Washington, D.C. say they are planning a one-day strike next week over complaints of low wages. I'm starting to see a pattern here, you guys. You guys starting to see a pattern here? Low wages, not paying people a living wage. The district, how do you get rid of this thing? Oh, well. The District of Columbia Nurses Association, the labor union representing over 300 nurses, pharmacists, and social workers, said the workers are understaffed and underpaid. And as such, they are demanding a fair contract and safe staffing in order to protect patients. The union argued that nurses and other licensed healthcare professionals working at the hospital have also been understaffed throughout the pandemic. See, this is what I was telling people about. Understaffed, it's a problem. The strike is scheduled for April 11th, so this started the other day at 7:30 a.m. It really comes down to treating us with dignity and respect. They are understaffing in the hospital and they are taking from us as costs continue to rise. This is coming from Jeanette Etheridge. Allowing us to maintain our financial dignity reflects respect. Providing enough staff so we can care for our patients the way they deserve to be cared for reflects respect. Again, it's the patients who suffer when this happens. In a letter last week, the union notified Howard University President Dr. Wayne Frederick and Howard University Hospital CEO Anita Jenkins of the upcoming strike. Edward Smith, the union's executive director, said that union members fully support the strike and hopes all employees will get involved. It's hard for people to say, I'm going to strike, especially in the healthcare area, because of the serious nature of the quality of care we give our patients. We wanted to make it clear to management that this issue was important enough for our members to strike. The union and the university's hospital have been involved in negotiations since last July as the collective bargaining agreement expired in November, prompting several months of negotiations between both parties. According to the DCNA, hospital management walked away from the bargaining table in mid-February once management presented their final offer. Shortly after walking away, the union said 13 faith leaders from across Washington, D.C. sent a letter to the university's president demanding that he bargain a fair contract. So I just want to say here, the reason why they walked away from what was offered is because they were not offered a fair contract. I just want to make that known to everyone. So here we go. Management walked away from the bargaining table despite our efforts to convince them that there were still a number of issues that needed to be negotiated. Because they are refusing to come back to the bargaining table, we really have no choice but to call for a one-day strike. Howard University did not immediately respond to NPR's request for comment Tuesday, of course. News of the hospital's plans to strike comes after the university made headlines last month after faculty members threatened to strike over complaints of unfair working conditions and wages. Ladies and gentlemen, Howard University is not having a good year. You have the students that were complaining, that took to the streets on mainstream media complaining about the living conditions at Howard University. You had the faculty members complaining about the wages and the treatment. And now you have the nurses, the physicians, the pharmacists, and the social workers complaining about wages and treatment at the university hospital. They're not having a good year. It's been rough. All right. So, news of the hospital. Oh, sorry, I read that part. Howard University administrators and the union that represents faculty members, the Service Employees International Union Local 500, reached a tentative 3-year agreement to negotiate fairer working conditions, averting a strike. The tentative pact was voted on by union leader membership Monday, according to faculty members. Okay, so again, this is what happens in a capitalist system. The people at the top keep most of the money and they exploit the people at the bottom. I am very, very appalled by the fact that those employees at those nursing homes weren't even being paid $20 an hour. And for those who are not aware, being a CNA is a hard job. That is not something that is easy to do. It's tough work. You're caring for people all day long. They weren't paying them a living wage. They weren't giving them decent benefits. They were, well, not paying some of them at all, apparently, for their first couple of weeks there. They were hiring people who were not licensed for those positions. These are just ways that companies will cut corners so that they can keep more money for the people who own those companies. I bet you the CEO, the people who own those nursing homes, I bet you they're doing okay. Just something to think about. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat. Eric says capitalism is unhealthy. There you go. There you go. Rebecca said, I mean, it's Howard University. It'd be one thing if this was a school for poor people, but this is a school for the upper class, not those disgusting minorities and whites that are poor. I don't know what you mean by disgusting minorities, Rebecca. I'm not sure where you're going here. But yes, it's a private university. For those who don't know, it's expensive to go to Howard University. It's not cheap. So they have the money. They have the money. And there's a lot of celebrities that graduated from Howard University. And I said this last year, where are all those celebrities and those politicians like Kamala Harris that brag about going to Howard University? Why aren't they donating money to the school to help these students get better living conditions? I said that last year. So here we go. Here we go. Gamer said, isn't CNA certified nursing assistant? Yes. Yes. You have to you have to go through training for that. It's just, oh boy. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. CNAs do a lot. I don't know if everyone is aware of what CNAs actually do, but they do a lot. I hate to say it, but they do have to do the work that the nurses don't do. Feeding the patients, cleaning the patients, assisting them to the bathroom sometimes. Like, it's tough work. Tough work. Sebastian said, what pisses me off as a college student is that we are in debt for crumbling infrastructure. Yes, very much true. All right. So 2 medical facilities, nursing home, hospital strikes are happening. Like I said, this year is going to be the year for strikes. We're going to see more and more of these. I'm going to have more of these stories coming. As you know, Starbucks also, they're trying to unionize all across the country, and they've been doing pretty well so far, even though Howard Schultz has stepped back in just to try to stop them. He is not succeeding so far, which is good. Now, my next story. Joe Rogan has come out against Nancy Pelosi. This should be really interesting, what I'm about to show you. For those who are not aware, Nancy Pelosi is one of the Congress people, I'll say people here, that participate in insider trading. But what exactly is insider trading? Let me explain this to you, and then I'm going to get into the story about Joe Rogan and Nancy Pelosi. Because some people are like, what does this mean? Insider trading. What is insider trading? Insider trading involves trading in a public company's stock by someone who has non-public material information about that stock for any reason. Insider trading can be either illegal or legal depending on when the insider makes the trade. So that is insider trading. Just wanted to go ahead and put that out there for you. Now, Nancy Pelosi is not the only one doing this. I'm going to get into that in just a second. But let's see what happened between Joe Rogan and Nancy Pelosi. Let me go ahead and cue this up for you.
The amount of...
Okay. All right, here we go. I don't have Eric behind the scenes with me tonight, you guys, so bear with me. Bear with me. Bear with me. All right, guys. So listen to what Joe Rogan says here on his podcast about Nancy Pelosi's insider trading.
The amount of stock trading that's done by members of Congress, the amount of fucking money that they make when they know decisions that are going to be signed and passed. They know laws that are going to be put into place. They know, like there was one recently that we're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the amount of money she invested in Tesla right before Biden signed this EV bill, electric vehicle bill. It's like 1.2 million. Find out if that's true. It was like
they should all have to put their money in trusts while they're in office that are done in fucking mutual funds, index funds, things that are auto-generated buying and not individual stocks.
Well, insider trading is against the law.
Yeah.
How is that not insider trading?
Listen to this. Listen to what he says.
Right.
If you know that someone's going to sign a bill and that bill is going to be a massive boost to the electrical vehicle industry, just as an example, and you know that bill is going to be signed. So right before that bill signed, you buy a fuckload of stock in electrical vehicles. And then the next day or whenever it was, that bill gets passed and then that stock goes up and you make a shit ton of money. How is that not illegal? They put Martha Stewart in jail for stock trading. Remember that?
Right.
For illegal.
Okay, I'm gonna let it play. I'm gonna come back and address that, what he just said there in just a second, because that's actually not 100% correct. Yes, Martha Stewart was doing insider trading, but that's actually not what put her in jail. So I'll touch on that in just a second, but let's let him finish.
Insider trading?
Yeah.
How is it what the Congress does? How is that?
They should not be able to buy and sell individual stocks.
Especially not shit where they have
and then keep an eye on their
access.
fucking brother-in-law too, because they're making some phone calls.
Exactly. Or their husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the Nancy Pelosi thing.
Yeah.
She's worth like $200 million. She makes a couple $100,000 a year.
Jesus. It's crazy.
The amount of stock trading that's done by members of Congress, the amount of fucking money that they make when they know decisions that are going to be signed and passed.
Notice he said congressman. So as I mentioned to you before this clip, it's not just Nancy Pelosi. She's just the only one that's being called out. I'm going to show you who some of the other congressmen and women are that are doing this as well. But just remember, it's not just her.
They know laws that are going to be put into place. They know, like there was one recently that we're talking about Nancy Pelosi and the amount of money she invested in Tesla right before Biden signed this EV bill, electric vehicle bill. It's like 1.2 million. Find out if that's true.
So I ask you, is that fair? Is that fair? I don't think that's fair. And who owns Tesla, you guys? Elon Musk. When I tell you that all these people are connected, all these people are connected. Politicians, millionaires, billionaires, they're all a part of the same club. They help each other. They assist each other. They work with each other. Let me go back in.
It was like
they should all have to put their money in trusts while they're in office that are done in fucking mutual funds, index funds, things that are auto-generated buying and not individual stocks.
Well, insider trading is against the law.
Yeah.
How is that not insider trading?
Right.
If you know that someone's going to sign a bill and that bill is going to be a massive boost to the electrical vehicle industry, just as an example, and you know that bill is going to be signed. So right before that bill signed, you buy a fuckload of stock in electrical vehicles. And then the next day or whenever it was, that bill gets passed and then that stock goes up and you make a shit ton of money. How is that not illegal? They put Martha Stewart in jail for stock trading. Remember that?
Right.
So that's the part I wanted to address. That's actually, yes, she did insider trading, but this is what actually put her in jail. In 2002, Martha stepped down from her board of directors position at the New York Stock Exchange, because her legal team had struck a deal with Peter Bakanovic's assistant, Douglas Faneuil. 6 months later, in June of 2003, she was indicted on 9 counts, which included obstructing justice and security fraud. She stepped away from her CEO position, but remained on as the chief creative director. So this is something I'm not sure if a lot of people realize that or know about this, but it's actually that she actually, even though she did insider trading, what really put her in prison was security fraud and obstructing justice. There's more details about this. I can go into this another time, but that's just something to note. I just want people to be aware of that. I'm going to address this comment here. Sebastian says Nancy Pelosi is the symbol of liberal elitism in this country. Nancy, AOC, and many other influential politicians are the reason why people are leaving the Dems. 100%. Because the Democratic Party is supposed to be the party for working class, but it's not. They're there for elite people, Wall Street people. That's what's happening with the Democratic Party.
Illegal insider trading?
Yeah.
How is it what the Congress does? How is that?
They should not be able to buy and sell individual stocks. That's
Especially
it.
not shit where they have
And then keep an eye on their
access.
fucking brother-in-law too, because they're making some phone calls.
Exactly. Or their husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the Nancy Pelosi thing.
Yeah.
She's worth like $200 million. She makes a couple $100,000 a year.
That part right there. Did you guys hear what he just said? How much Nancy Pelosi is worth? Listen to it one more time.
She's worth like $200 million. She makes a couple $100,000 a year.
Nancy Pelosi is worth like $200 million. Now, congressmen and women do not make that salary. So she's getting her money from somewhere else. And I really wanted to touch on that. Now, to go into details about what she is actually doing, listen to this clip here. Now, of course, Fox is the one who reported on this. Of course, CNN and MSNBC aren't going to talk about it, but this is what we have. So this is where we go. Listen to this.
Welcome back. Podcaster Joe Rogan going after Democrat House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other members of Congress for something we've discussed plenty of, for lawmakers being allowed to own stock options while being in a position to regulate their industries, potentially profiting from it. Dagan, we've seen this over and over again, particularly with Nancy Pelosi and her husband. When did she first buy Tesla stock? And she's been pushing electric vehicles throughout. What about Microsoft right before we saw a major Department of Defense contract? What do you think?
Well, Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, who is a venture capitalist, owns, based on some reports, more than $2.5 million worth of shares in Tesla.
Guys, they just told you Nancy Pelosi's husband is a venture capitalist. Those people make a lot of money. A lot of money. Let's go back.
Tesla essentially wouldn't exist without direct subsidies from the federal government. And with her being the Speaker of the House for now, that raises a huge conflict of interest. And to Joe Rogan's point, I'll always side with Rogan, particularly over that privileged, sniveling germaphobe known as Howard Stern. There's nothing wrong with people owning mutual funds. When I started working as a journalist almost 30 years ago, in a financial journalist, I've always owned mutual funds and never owned individual stocks to make sure, or exchange traded funds now, to make sure that there wasn't any conflict of interest.
That's right. Me too. I did the same thing. Mutual funds are exchange traded funds. Why can't Nancy Pelosi own ETFs, Steve? You'll get the diversity. Or a mutual fund like Dagan. You get the diversity, but you don't have the power over individual companies like Tesla, which she's a big owner of, and she's going to decide their fate with the regulatory framework she comes up with. I mean,
yes.
It's a joke.
Well, and this shows why the.
And this is why, and for people who are not aware, I do want to let you know, congressmen and congresswomen are not supposed to do insider trading. In fact, there was a law. I'm going to pull this up for you in just a second. I'll get into that. I'll get into that when I go into that article. But there is a law that was put in place. It was done under the Obama administration, actually, that prohibits congressmen and women from doing insider trading. Yet not only is Nancy Pelosi doing this, but other congressmen and women are doing it too. And I'm going to get into that after I go through this clip. So let's go back in.
The whole ethics thing in Congress is a bit of a joke. The fact of the matter is there are laws on the books about insider trading. And if they had a real ethics committee, they would be investigating that and putting on sanctions for violations. But the laws are on the books, but they're not enforced, which deepens public cynicism about Congress because they make laws for us, but don't obey them themselves.
That's true, but I'm going to tell you how Fox News is being biased here. What they're not mentioning is that there are also Republican congressmen and women who are doing the same thing. They're not mentioning that. See, this is where the bias comes in, right? Because what they just told you there, that's true. That's correct. What they said about Nancy Pelosi, what they said about insider trading for congressmen and women, that is true. The bias part is that they are only mentioning the Democrat that's doing it, and they're not mentioning the Republicans that are doing it as well. This is what they do. This is what Fox News does. This is what CNN does. This is what MSNBC does. They'll mention the people that are doing wrong on the other team, but they won't mention the people that are doing wrong on their team. That's how it works. I'm going to finish this, and then I'm going to show you who those other congressmen and women are.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I'll say it again. I've said it before. We need term limits in Congress. But unfortunately, these are the folks that are going to decide whether there will be term limits.
What Steve just said, though, it comes down to how they treated the rest of us during COVID. Rules for thee, but not for me. People are sick of it.
That's right. Yep.
But both parties do that. Both parties do that. Sorry, but it's true. All right, let me get to some of these super chats, and then I'm going to go to that article. Thank you so much for the super chat, Disco Phil. But Pelosi told Wolf Blitzer she is for the working class. She did, right? When's the last time Pelosi was working class? I don't think she was ever working class. Remember, her father was a politician out of Baltimore. She was born into a political family. And for those who are not aware, Gavin Newsom is also related to Nancy Pelosi, and he is the governor of California. Imagine that. Thanks for the super chat. Andrew says Rogan, in my opinion, could be an ally of the working class. Libs say, but he didn't say Trump bad. Jink the Penguin Uger says, I'll fight Rogan. You call him a penguin. No, you did not, Andrew. No, you didn't. Oh my gosh. Lonely Weirdo says you shouldn't be allowed to make laws that benefit you. 100%. 100%. I agree. Leroy says we feed them. Eric says Democrats equal Republicans. 100%. And Leroy says political dynasties make my skin crawl. Yeah, I don't like political dynasties either. That's suspect to me. Okay, who are those other congressmen and women that are also guilty of insider trading? So let me go ahead and pull this up for you. By the way, this is coming from Business Insider. They would know, right? All right, here we go. 59 members of Congress have violated a law designed to stop insider trading and prevent conflicts of interest. 59. That's a lot. I'm not going to show you all of them. You guys would kill me. I'd have you here all night. But here we go. Insider and several other news organizations have identified 59 members of Congress who've recently failed to properly report their financial trades as mandated by the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act of 2012. This is also known as the Stock Act. So this is the law I was referring to that was put in place under the Obama administration. So just FYI, the Stock Act. So here we go. Congress passed the law a decade ago to combat insider trading and conflict of interest among their own members and force lawmakers to be more transparent about their personal financial dealings. A key provision of the law mandates that lawmakers publicly and quickly disclose any stock trade made by themselves, a spouse, or a dependent child. So anyone in their immediate family. But many members of Congress have not fully complied with the law. You don't say. They offer excuses, including ignorance of the law, clerical errors, and mistakes by an accountant. Sounds like something someone would do who's trying to commit some type of white-collar crime. Insider has chronicled this widespread nature of this phenomenon in a new project called Conflicted Congress. While lawmakers who violate Stock Act face a fine, the penalty is usually small. $200 is the standard amount or waived by the House or Senate ethics officials. So this is part of the problem. Even though they have the Stock Act in place, the penalty is small. They're making six figures. They can pay $200. That's nothing to them. You know how many perks they get as being a member of Congress? So you slap on that little fine for them based on all the stocks that they're going to get in return. That's nothing for them. So yes, the Obama administration put this in place, but it's not like the punishment is severe enough to prevent them from doing it. So there you go. Again, looking out for each other. Quick shout out to Frank Johnson, who just became a Sabby member. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop. All right, Frank. So let's go back in. I want to give you names. Here we go. Surprise, surprise. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see. All right. Here are some of the people doing this, ladies and gentlemen. Miss Dianne Feinstein. Are you surprised? Democrat. Tommy Tuberville. He's a Republican. Roger Marshall, a Republican. He's from Kansas. Rand Paul, a Republican from Kentucky. This is what I'm telling you. It's not just Democrats. There were Republicans too. When you notice in that Fox News segment, you didn't hear them mention any of the Republicans who were doing the same thing. Rand Paul. Let's go on. Sheldon Whitehouse, a Democrat. That doesn't remind me. He's horrible, by the way. He is horrible. Mark Kelly from Arizona, also a Democrat. Cynthia Loomis, a Republican from Wyoming. Oh, they're naming names. Tom Malinowski, a Democrat from New Jersey. Let's go down. Pat Fallon, a Republican from Texas. There's a lot of them. Diana Harshberger, a Republican from Tennessee. Susie Lee, Democrat of Nevada. Catherine Clark. She's from my state, Massachusetts. Shame on you, Catherine. Shame on you. Let's go down. Blake Moore, Republican from Utah. Mickey Sherrill, Democrat from New Jersey. Mo Brooks, Republican from Alabama. Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland. They're all corrupt. They're so crooked. Dan Crenshaw, Republican from Texas. Kathy Manning, Democrat from North Carolina. Kevin Hearn, Republican from Oklahoma. And lo and behold, Debbie Weiserman Schultz, a Democrat from Florida. We should have known she would be here. Not Miss Corrupt Debbie Weiserman Schultz. And I'll stop there. It is a long list. I'm going to put a link to this list in the chat because we'll be here all night if I go through everyone. But if you're interested in checking that out, the link is in the chat. I just put that there. But let's go back to the money situation. Where is Nancy Pelosi getting all that money from? How is she worth $200 million? Well, Joe Rogan has some things to say about that. And I know people have criticism of Joe Rogan, and rightfully so, but he's right about this. Let me share my screen here. I haven't said that in so long, you guys. Sorry, but like Eric's not here and I didn't feel comfortable using the system by myself. I figured I'd mess it up. All right. Where did Nancy Pelosi's money come from? Here we go.
I was looking at that. What's that crazy lady's name? Laura Loomer, the lady that jumped Nancy Pelosi's fence.
Oh, yeah.
She camped out on her yard. You know what made me think? How the fuck's Nancy Pelosi own that house? Where's she getting all that cash?
Yeah. What's her net worth now? A couple $100 million.
Really?
I forget. I mean,
to do what? Is she in business?
She came from a hardcore political family in Baltimore, I think. And
there's so much dirty money out there.
She's been doing.
What?
100 million? I was way off.
Us. She's worth 100 million?
Estimated, but that's like, I don't know if it's one of those online
net worth.
Million.
Bullshit
Where
net
is
worth.
And keep in mind, this was, let me pull this out of full screen real quick. When was this video? How come Joe Rogan doesn't have dates on his videos? How did this happen? What happened here? How come this video doesn't have a date? That's weird. Joe. Okay, I see a comment 3 years ago. Okay, one of the oldest comments I see is from 3 years ago. So this was 3 years ago. She's now worth 200 million. So just keep that in mind. Let him finish.
Get her money from?
Wow. Maybe she, you know what? Maybe she's good at just
background, Jamie.
keeping her per diem. She doesn't spend her per diem or stipend.
Per diem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's her her annual salary? Well, she just started getting it for this job.
Wouldn't it be
450 grand?
Wow. No, that's the net worth of average net worth or median net worth of congresspersons.
Okay.
Congressperson. So it can't be anything higher than an SIS something. So it's probably not more than 180 something.
It's all her good work she did with the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, Speaker of the House gets 223,000.
200 grand. She's worth $100 million. What in the holy fuck is that? How's that?
And she does have a big wall around her place.
Yeah. Not enough to keep Laura Loomer's not an athlete.
She vaulted right over that son of a bitch.
It's not like she's a parkour athlete. How the fuck did she get over that?
Didn't she show up with some illegals, illegal immigrants or whatever, undocumented workers, whatever we use?
She chained herself to Twitter. I know she did that too. That broad.
That's right.
She's going hard for attention. It's very interesting when these people just try so hard to make it into the news.
Yeah, well, they're looking for a contributor slot. They're looking for on one network or another. I think that's what they're doing. You have to nowadays. I think that.
So listen to this part again. Here we go.
Yeah.
You know, I was looking at that. What's that crazy lady's name? Laura Loomer, the lady that jumped Nancy Pelosi's fence.
Oh, yeah.
And she camped out on her yard. You know what made me think? How the fuck's Nancy Pelosi own that house? Where's she getting all that cash?
Yeah. What's her net worth now? A couple $100 million.
Really?
I forget. I mean,
to do what? Is she in business?
She came from a hardcore political family in Baltimore, I think. And
there's so much dirty money out there.
She's been doing. What? 100 million? I was way
that's
off.
us. She's worth 100 million?
Estimated, but that's like, I don't know if it's one of those
Online
online
net worth.
million.
100 million.
bullshit
Where does she
networks
get her
or-
money from?
Wow.
You got
Maybe she, you know what?
something
Maybe she's
playing
good
in
at
the
just
background, Jamie.
keeping her per diem. She doesn't
Yeah,
spend her
that's
per
all
diem
it
or
is. Just the per
stipend.
diem.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what's her or her annual salary? Well, she just started getting it for this job.
Wouldn't it be
450 grand?
wow. No, that's the net worth of average net worth or median net worth of congresspersons.
Okay.
Congressperson. So it can't be anything higher than an SIS something. So it's probably not more than 180 something.
It's all her good work she did with the Clinton Foundation.
Oh, Speaker of the House gets 223,000.
200 grand. She's worth $100 million. What in the holy fuck is that? How is that?
And she does have a big wall.
How is that even possible? How is that even possible? Now you see why she has these refrigerators full of ice cream. She can afford it. That's how much Nancy Pelosi is worth. Where did the money come from? Let's see. Let's see, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on. She didn't make that money from Congress. All right, I was a little bit off, but here we go. Look, I'm going to show you something. She's not alone. She's not alone. Watch this. All right. List of current members of the United States Congress by wealth. Nancy Pelosi, 114.7 million. Let me make this a little bit larger for you in the back. Nancy Pelosi, 114.7 million. John Hoeven, 93.4. Dianne Feinstein, here we go, 87.9. So if I'm not mistaken, if I'm not mistaken, aren't Dianne Feinstein and Nancy Pelosi in the same district? I think they live near each other, if I'm not mistaken. It's very expensive to live there. Very expensive in San Francisco. Who's 1 through 9, Yasmin? Let's see. Well. Let me zoom in so you guys can see all these people. Rick Scott is number 1. He's the Republican from Florida, 259.7 million. Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia, 214.1 million. Greg Gianforte, I hope I pronounced his name right, Republican from Montana, 189.3. Paul Mitchell, Republican from Michigan, 179.6. Mitt Romney, well. Mitt Romney's in the top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Not holier than thou, Mitt Romney. He's in the top 5. 174.5 million. Again, these are the millions we're talking about here. Vernon Buchanan, 157.2 million. Mike Braun, 136.8 million. Don Breyer, 124.9 million. Dean Phillips, 123.8 million. And Nancy Pelosi rounds out the top 10. It's disgusting when you think about it. It's really disgusting. I'm going to go to some of the comments and then I'm going to go to the next story. So let's do that. Frank Johnson, who just became a Sabby member, says John Kerry is a Forbes on his mother's side. I didn't know that. I was not aware of that. See, this is the thing. One of the things I've been trying to tell people, a lot of these news commentators that you see on CNN and MSNBC and Fox News, and a lot of the politicians, especially the older politicians that have been there for a while, a lot of them are coming from families that have money. They're coming from wealthy families. Nancy Pelosi came from a political family, a wealthy family. Like, it's not, you don't see many Cory Bushes up in there, okay? You don't you don't really see it like that. And when you look at the media, they're also coming from wealthy families a lot of times. Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt. Look them up. Chris Cuomo. His dad, Mario Cuomo. He was a politician also. A lot of these people were already connected. They come from wealthy families. It was easier for them to get in. And don't think that they're not going to the same country clubs and the same wine events as these politicians. Just keep that in mind. What is that CBC voter? Sabby Sabs 12.6K. When did that happen? No, seriously, did that happen just now? I told you guys I only check these numbers once a week. That must have just happened. Well, all right. Moving on up. All right. Frank Johnson also said Mitt Romney's Vulture Capital Company is the one that destroyed Toys R Us. Well. Frank Johnson, you seem to know a lot. Welcome. I Hate Work 420 said it's a big club and you're not in it. 100%. Megan Morales says, hi all. If I recall correctly, Pelosi used to babysit the Kennedy's boys when she was young. I heard that, Megan. I heard that too. I was trying to find that somewhere so I could have some receipts, but I've heard that as well. Ben said, I never knew that. Yeah, all these people are connected, man. Wealthy people are connected like that. They have events that some of us have never heard of and will never hear of, unless you're a part of that group. Leroy said, Gianforte is the guy who body slammed a reporter on camera and still won his election. That guy. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. All right, guys. I want to go ahead and go into my next story, which is about Matt Taibbi. So I told you guys last night, I've been doing a lot more, reading more articles, more Substack articles, because I usually don't read articles much on Substack, but I'm trying to get better about that. And I presented one to you a couple days ago that was about Chris Hedges has a Substack. So I was reading one of his articles or something from it. And Matt Taibbi, and it was actually Eric who told me about this article, posted an article recently on Substack that I think all of you should read this article. I'm not going to read the entire article, but there are a couple of passages here that I do want to highlight and I do want to discuss, because I think that when it comes to war in this country, I think a lot of Americans have been propagandized to believe that we are doing the greater good, that the United States is doing the right thing by getting involved. And I remember buying into that philosophy, especially after, September 11th. I remember buying into that, thinking like, we're catching the bad guys. We're the good guys and we're going to go take the bad guys out. And, as I have grown, I've realized that is not the case. So let me go ahead and show you this article here. Share my screen. So weird to say that again now. So Matt Taibbi, if you want to find him on Substack, it's called TK News by Matt Taibbi. And the article that I'm talking about tonight is called Give War a Chance. Now, listen to this. This is really interesting. More and more, we're told outright war isn't just necessary and right, but the thing that will solve America's essential problems. And this is what I was talking about. The media, they convince us that we're doing the right thing, that this is how we're going to tackle these issues. Like, we are going in to save people, to help people, to protect people who are there. Most of the time, that's not true, obviously. So I'm going to go into this. So listen, there's certain points I want to point out in this article. So I'm going to go ahead and start with this section right about here. This is the one that really stood out. Most of us look back at September 11 and wish we'd tried to narrow the scope of the problem, not expand it in a grandiose ways, and make it the central fact of our lives of every person on the planet. We were told right away that September 11 meant so much more than a policing problem, that instead of a few nut jobs slipping through the net, bin Laden's Twin Tower attacks herald an inevitable and desirable final battle between new and old worlds. We're going through something similar now. Now, before I get into that part, I do want to chime in here and say the propaganda, and I have to be careful how I discuss this because of what I'm talking about, but the propaganda around that time, there was so much promotion about American pride and you should be proud to be an American and America's going to fight back after September 11. There was a lot of that on TV. If it wasn't news, I saw commercials about it. People, of course, tried to make money off of it, capitalize off of it, selling t-shirts. There were mugs. It was ridiculous. And when you see something like that over and over again every day, if you're not careful, you can start to believe that we are doing the right thing and that America has to be the greatest country and that we are the good guys. And that is what was preached to us during that time. Now, I can't really speak about conflicts that happened before I was born, but I can talk about the ones that I experienced and what the media space was like during that time and the message that was coming across to a lot of people in this country. Matt Taibbi is telling you we're experiencing this again right now with the conflict with Russia and Ukraine. And I want to give you an example of people trying to make money off of this. Everywhere I go on social media, I see like a flag or a picture or someone has it in their bio or their little headline, a Ukrainian flag, and the message, I stand with Ukraine. I am not here to say that people in Ukraine should be punished. I don't think anyone should be punished right now, but I am going to say that I think that the United States, Russia, and Ukraine, all three of them are at fault when it comes to this conflict. I'm not putting 100% of the blame on one country. I'm that person. But it is disturbing to me to see people making money off of it. That really bothers me, that irk my nerve. It really bothers me. And I'm seeing people do this. They got t-shirts, mugs, bumper stickers that you can buy. I went through something similar like this a couple of years ago here in Boston. Boston Marathon. For those who don't remember, a couple years ago, there was a Boston Marathon bombing here. I was here. And I remember that very well. What was kind of sad to see was all the companies that made money off of it. All the companies that made money off of the people who were injured, the t-shirts, the mugs, Boston Strong. It became a hashtag. And I always get concerned when some type of event or movement becomes a hashtag, because then it's profitable and these companies can make money off of it. It takes away from the seriousness of the event. It takes away from the people who were victims. And here we are again. Everywhere I look, hashtag I stand with Ukraine, buy this t-shirt, buy this mug. It's just another way that people are making profit off of it. And I don't like that. I think that's disgusting. So we're going through this again, just like we did with September 11. So listen to what else he says here. We're going through something similar now. The pundit excitement over the final clash between democracy and autocracy, perhaps being at the hands, reminds me exactly of the open praying for signs of the apocalypse I once heard among the rapture ready flock of Pastor John Hagee in San Antonio. We saw a ton of this thinking after September 11. World domination advocates who'd been laughed out of meetings for years were taken seriously overnight. Rigid. They were suddenly in print and on air everywhere, bursting with plans for everyone. Such people always rush to the front of the debate in these moments, and they're always listened to. Until about 10 years later, when it quietly becomes okay to reflect on a question we probably should have pondered in the moment. Hey, are these people crazy? Why don't we do that? Why don't we do that even right now? This is another one of those situations I feel we're going to look back on years from now and say, oh yeah, that probably wasn't a good idea. Maybe all of that warmongering, maybe all of those anti-Russia phrases and rhetoric that people are using, looking back on it, maybe that wasn't a good idea. Because I remember after September 11, the type of rhetoric that people were using in this country against Muslim people. Some of you in the chat, you might remember that too. I remember that. Now here we are years later. Some of those same people look back on it and they're like, oh, maybe that wasn't a good thing to do, a good thing to say. This is what happens when you let mainstream media propagandize you to the point where you start to believe that the quote unquote identified enemy is someone you should hate. And not only should you just hate the country, but you should also hate the people in that country. It's something I want people to pay close attention to because I'm seeing it happen, and not just on social media. I want us to be really careful that we don't get back to that point again that we were back then in September, where people were hating Muslim people. I hope we don't get to that point again in this country where people start to feel that way towards people who are Russian. Because some of the things that I've heard, it's appalling. It's appalling. And why do they think it's okay to say it? Because mainstream media is telling them it's okay. If you turn on the news and you hear Rachel Maddow, you hear Brian Stelter, all of these pundits on CNN and MSNBC sit up there and use that same type of rhetoric. You saw last night, I showed you Jen Psaki in a 1 minute, 6 second video clip had blamed Russia 5 times without directly saying, I blame Russia. The more you watch it, if you're not informed and you don't know what's really going on, the easier it is for you to be pro-war and to advocate for it and to say, yes, go take them out, which I heard that during September 11 too. After that, the more you're going to advocate for it and the more you're going to hate those people. So we have to be very careful. Let's go back in. At the outset of the Ukraine invasion, American talking heads with near unanimity insisted there be no calls for direct military involvement. We were told even the most hawkish elements in the West just wanted to supply Ukraine with weapons and give them a chance to fight back against a brutal invader. That stance held for less than a few weeks. Messaging moved more toward open calls for war in distinct phases. The first came via a flood of stories about how the invasion had revitalized or restored faith in the American project. To some, Putin's march into Ukraine, whatever else it might mean, first and foremost, validated every dumb foreign policy idea America ever had. I want to skip down to this part here. Ukraine war ushers in new era for U.S. abroad. Now, this is from March 12, the New York Times. Matt goes on to say this was an orgy of such neoliberal crowing about Ukraine righting past wrongs. The post-September 11 war on terror period of American hubris and decline is now behind us, declared Obama's former Deputy National Security Advisor, Ben Rhodes, echoing baseball star George Brett's famous quote about hemorrhage surgery in the 1980 World Series. My pain is all behind me now. Let's jump down to this part right here. Former Obama HUD official Brandon Friedman, author of a book called No Kidding, The War I Always Wanted, responded to reports of mass civilian casualties in the city of Bucha by conceding that, yes, America has a history of killing civilians too, but never in ways that look this bad. No cities during the Iraq invasion were ever made to look like Mariupol, Bucha, or other heavily damaged places in Ukraine, which I'm guessing means he never visited Fallujah. He added that he simply did not believe the statistics about civilian deaths compiled by the widely cited group Iraq Body Count because the organization is currently promoting a Michael Tracy tweet. Former U.S. soldier and writer Matt Gallagher said that while, yes, American killed civilians, these attacks weren't systemic or conducted on a mass scale. Look at how easily and how calmly they're talking about civilians being killed. Yeah, a couple people died, a couple of kids, women and children died that weren't fighting, that weren't involved with the war. But, it's not like it was done on a mass scale or something. That's actually not true. We've seen reports, we've seen documents that show that this was done on a mass scale. We've seen that a lot of times you have like 80%, I have to go back and check the number, 80% of civilians killed. You don't consider that to be on a mass scale? Carr says, what the? I know, right? This is terrible. Isn't this crazy? They talk about it so casually, as if this isn't a big deal, that innocent people are dying. Let's go back in. He quickly deleted the comment. So there you go. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. There's another part I want to highlight here. Let me go down. The notion that someone else's insanity could cure your own ought procure your own ought to be limited to the thinking of people who live in padded rooms. Sadly, it isn't. Even before Putin invaded Ukraine, we saw open longing for a chance to give leadership. This was the thesis of Bret Stephens' article, Bring Back the Free World, way back on January 25th. Stephens decried an America so obsessed with its own sins that it was helping the the autocracies of the world make democracy seem divided, tired, and corrupt. What was needed, he wrote, was a restoration of the concept of the free world, a way to bring back its clarifying power and moral force. Clarifying power. Let me go down here. There's another part I wanted to show you as well. As time passes, it seems there's less and less of a chance of negotiating an end to the war in Ukraine in a way that might keeping the problem localized. But where am I? Oh, sorry, because that will leave the global clash unresolved. Analysts and think tankers have already moved past Ukraine in their minds to a future reorganization of Earth. Here's a quote here. Russia's war against Ukraine will end with the breakup of the Russian Federation. It will be replaced by small, demilitarized, and powerless republics with neutrality written into their constitutions. So here's another part I want to highlight as well. For most of the 90s, living in Russia, I found myself gaining an appreciation for America. I thought, as messed up as our country is, at least you can't openly pay bribes in court, and people aren't often boiled alive when hot water pipes burst under sidewalks. Then I went home not long after September 11th, and watching George Bush, soon found myself missing Russia, thinking at least Boris Yeltsin was too busy drinking and stealing to try to conquer the planet. Now the worst of both worlds are on a collision course. People like Igor Strelkov are shouting the Russian equivalent of "Bring it on" to the free worlders. And armchair warriors like Robert Kagan, I mentioned him the other night, by the way, are shouting their own provocations back. God save us from the people who dream big without brains to match. I'm going to give you guys the link to this article. I highly recommend that you take a look at this. It's a good article. But basically, the point he's making here is how easily Americans can just advocate for war. That's why the name of the article is Give War a Chance. People really do believe it will solve America's existential problems. That's Robert Kagan, by the way, this guy right here. I'm going to go to some of the comments in the chat, and there's something else I wanted to say about this as well. JP said, Chris Hedges says, we have not had any real politicians in the United States since the 30s and 40s. Wow. Yeah, I remember hearing him say that. I think that was before corporate money got into elections. I'll have to double check, but I think that was the last time we had elections in this country and corporate money was not involved. Rebecca says, and service members' attitude is, I was just doing as I was told, and you should too. Yes, let's talk about that. It happens. It happens. That's what they're told, right? That's what they're told to believe. Yes, it may be hard for you to see innocent people die, but this is your job. You're just doing your job. At the end of the day, don't beat yourself up about it. Try saying that to some of the veterans in the United States that have been in those conflicts abroad. Sorry, I'm going through the comments here. Megan said, how are people going to cry out about civilians dying now, but are silent when 90% of U.S. drone strikes kill civilians? Exactly. 100%. How are people going to cry about it now? Sebastian said, if they want war so much, why can't they volunteer themselves in the front lines? Oh, wait. They want someone else to do the dirty work. Loner Weirdo says, Madeleine Albright's line of hundreds of thousands of dead Iraqi kids being worth it. Yes, I remember that. I mentioned that too when she passed away, and they were trying to praise her on Twitter, and they were trying to praise her on CNN and MSNBC. And I was like, why are you praising this woman? So I ran some clips to show people some of the things that she said. She didn't care. She didn't care about those kids in Iraq. Please. Ogre said, IKEA warned our parents what was coming on his farewell address. Let's see. Sorry, you guys. Again, I'm by myself tonight. No Eric, so... JP said, if Ralph Nader was a president, we would have a better country today. Interesting, JP. Interesting. Well, we know what they did with Ralph Nader. You know, they pushed him out quickly. Like, oh, you can't be here. You cannot stay here if you're going to speak out against us. Unfortunately, that's how it works. Tool Droid said Albright was a ghastly woman, one of the worst, yet celebrated by mainstream Dems. Disgusting. Whew. Yeah, she was pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Last night's news segment was pretty heavy. So I told myself tonight, because we were talking about recession and economic issues, I told myself tonight that I would end tonight's show on a funny note. I was going to make you laugh. So I'm going to do that. And I don't know how many of you have seen this. If you haven't seen this, I hope you get a laugh out of this. I hope you enjoy yourself. I sure did. So again, for those who do not know, Ben Shapiro, he made an appearance. He had a speaking engagement at a anti-trans event. Of course, it's Ben Shapiro we're talking about. This is why I usually don't talk about Ben Shapiro, because he's so obvious. Like, dude, you're obvious. I don't need to explain to people how you are or what you believe and how these issues that you tend to put out there are not okay. I don't need to do that, because people that watch me, they already know this. My job is to reveal to you the people who a lot of people on the liberal side and some people on the left are not paying attention to, and the people that they think are trustworthy and the people that they think are doing the right thing. My job is to expose those people to you, because once you see that they're just as corrupt as the Ben Shapiros and the Dave Rubins, then you follow the money and you will know why. But I'm going to make you laugh tonight. Here we go. Let's do it. So Ben Shapiro attended an anti-trans event, and one of the college students in the audience decided to call him out. So hold on to your seats. Get ready to laugh.
Dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder,
bozo,
which is
bro.
identified
And you get no
as
pussy,
dysphoria.
and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
Dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder, which
bozo,
is
bro.
self-identified
And you get no
as dysphoria.
pussy, and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
Dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I
said-
use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder, which
bozo,
is
bro.
self-identified
And you get no
as
pussy,
dysphoria.
and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
Dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I
said-
use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder, which
bozo,
is
bro.
self-identified
And you get no
as
pussy,
dysphoria.
and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
I had to make you laugh before you guys go. For those who don't know, that was in reference to Ben Shapiro at one point was trying to read the lyrics to Cardi B's WAP song, and he was really bad at it. And of course, he read it in his Ben Shapiro voice. And he thought the song was, I guess, an abomination. Of course, he would. He didn't like the performance that they did. He had a problem with that, yada, yada. As you can imagine, he did. But what was really funny was that he seemed to not really understand, I guess, what they were really talking about in the song. And he said his wife told him that if you have a wet, oh my God, that you have some type of gynecology, that is an OBGYN issue. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself, like, oh my God, his wife must be so miserable. Like, how can you? Could you imagine, like, not have. Could you imagine Ben Shapiro, like, if you. Like, sometimes when I hear people talk, I wonder if that's the way they talk, no matter what they're doing everything that they do. So could you imagine if Ben Shapiro has that same voice during sex? Could you imagine if he's. I'm sorry, I just pictured it. Oh my God, that voice. It's just like, move to the right, move to the left. Oh my God, I'm almost there. I'm gonna stop. Guys, I gotta go, but I am gonna end on this. I'm sorry. It's hilarious. So here we go.
Dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I
said-
use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder, which
bozo,
is
bro.
self-identified
And you get no
as
pussy,
dysphoria.
and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
Dysphoria, which is
I
a term
literally
that I
said-
use throughout the speech, not gender
You
identity
sound like a
disorder, which
bozo,
is
bro.
self-identified
And you get no
as
pussy,
dysphoria.
and you can't even make your wife wet, bro. So what's good?
I gotta go. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.